Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we're discussing a watch launched in 2021. This is the Zenith Chronomaster Sport. Ceramic black bezel, 41mm stainless steel case, 13.8mm thick, 46.7mm from lug to lug. This watch has a 20mm spacing between the lugs. And what sets this apart from most of the examples I've reviewed before is that this one features the factory strap, a combination of textile, leather, and on the underside, inlaid rubber. Now we throw this watch on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference. You can see it's a good fit, particularly on the strap, because we don't have the bracelet to increase the span across the wrist. This wears really nicely and would wear well on a wrist, perhaps even as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. You could see down the barrel, so to speak. The lugs are nowhere near the edge of my wrist. It is flat enough, especially with the sloped bezel, to fit underneath all jacket cuffs and many shirt sleeves. The strap is nicely made and substantial. As you can see on the top, blue is a textile with a matching blue stitch, a sheer cut side showing you that there are quite a few layers of leather under the textile, and then on the back we have an inlay of rubber. This is something Zenith's been doing for most of a decade. With rubber on the back of the strap, the leather is protected from the oils, sweat, the moisture, and the grit of the wrist. This is a brand new Zenith factory strap, and then we have a Zenith deployant clasp here. You can see it is of steel. It is a double deployant, and it is trigger released, so you press the triggers to open this up. It can't pop open by accident if you jerk your wrist or recoil. You can see that the buckle itself has the Zenith 5-pointed star logo, and it is both satinated and polished. Taking a quick look over at the case, this watch is often described as a bit of a Daytona look-alike, but when you look at the case profile, you can see that it really is its own thing. From this angle, yes, I definitely see the Daytona comparisons. From this angle, less so. The Daytona has tapered lug profiles and a rounded case flank. This is more sheer. These lugs are squared off. A Daytona has polished lug hoods. This is satinated. A Daytona doesn't have a lug bevel like this. And of course, a Daytona doesn't have these vintage-inspired pump-style pushers. A Zenith has those, but a Daytona has screw downs. Now, if you look on the reverse side, you can see that Zenith really thought of everything, giving you a little kerf behind the crown so you can dig your nail in to withdraw the crown. You'll also appreciate that the same thing's been done on the underside of the chronograph pushers. The bezel is made of ceramic, which, along with the sapphire crystal, helps to deflect the hits that might otherwise hit the steel. So ceramic, of course, and sapphire are very scratch resistant. Now, this is nothing like the Daytona's tachymeter bezel. This is a 10-second bezel that acts as a scale for the striking 10th complication, an innovation that Zenith introduced back in 2010. It takes the traditional 10 beat per second rate of the El Primero and it expands a second over a larger arc than a small subregister. So it's easier, for example, to read seconds and fractions of seconds than when you have a tiny subregister. So, for example, if I want to see that I have measured 2 seconds and 9/10 elapsed, I can more easily read that as 10 seconds are spread over 360 degrees. The El Primero has always been able to resolve 1/10 of a second. It has just not been possible with tiny subregisters to see it as a person. Now we have steel indices and hands that are rhodium plated to give them a lovely silver white shine. The watch is loomed, and we're going to take a look at the loom right there. Of course, the striking 10th is also a foudroyant, or lightning seconds hand. That's a lot of fun to watch. We have a chalk white matte dial, and then we have a set of sub-registers in tritone that are slightly overlapping. This is another nod to Zenith's own styling history, very unlike any Daytona chronograph design. We do lose the chronograph hours register. We have chronograph minutes up to 60, which I like, because I always think 30-minute chronograph registers aren't quite enough, so I like to see the whole hour. And then we have a 60-second register in blue, and then we have our constant seconds for the time of day over at 9 o'clock. We have a little stepped aperture to ease the transition from the dial down to the date disc, which is white to match the dial. The watch has a feature that historically was not part of the El Primero movement. We have a hacking seconds function. That's something that was added on this caliber 3600, which is effectively the El Primero 2. Now we also have a quick set for the date. Turn the watch over, and you can see that El Primero caliber 3600. It's all grayscale to give it a cool technical look. Automatic winding. The 3600 has an extra 10 hours of power reserve compared to the past, so it's now 60 hours of power reserve. 35 joules rather than 31, still beats away at 5 hertz or 10 beats per second. The watch also remains a column wheel lateral clutch chrono, so you can see the column wheel in action right here. It's blued. Then you can see the lateral clutch. The column wheel makes for wonderfully crisp action that feels and sounds good. Note that the watch includes both blued screws and polished screws. Some of them are used for setting components in place. Others are used for adjustments, and the color code of the screw is the signal to the Zenith watchmaker about how to proceed. All of this is 100 meters water resistant. And though you can't quite see it, the watch does have a silicone unlubricated escapement so that it maintains high performance in between servicings, and it doesn't degrade over time quite to the same extent that a conventional pallet stone lubricated Swiss lever escapement would. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.